wanted to talk to you today really quick about a lot of women who are kind of tired, but maybe you're not really tired. Maybe you're kind of bored with the energy that is surrounding you. Like maybe it's the same people, the same negative conversations, be it at work, be it in whatever place that you tend to spend most of your time. The same kind of complaints, the same week on repeat. Sometimes you do not need more sleep, another motivational quote, or even a perfect new plan. Sometimes you just need to pay attention to the room that you keep placing yourself in. You guys, energy is everything. Energy is contagious. And that could be on the positive side of things, and that could also be on the negative. And sometimes just changing your life starts with changing the room. So, are you truly exhausted, or are you drained from repeating the same routines, conversations, and patterns? In today's episode 349 of the Get Unstuck Podcast, I'm going to be talking to you about the energy that we allow around us and how the people, conversations, and environments we repeatedly choose can either move us forward or they can actually keep you kind of stuck. So this is not about dramatically cutting everyone out of your life. It's about becoming more intentional with your time and self-aware of your boundaries and your habits and the energy that you're trying to protect. So you'll learn how to recognize when an environment is actually draining you, how to pay attention, how you feel when you leave a room, why familiar does not always mean it's healthy, and how one small change can interrupt a pattern that has been repeating for maybe far too long. So sometimes you do not need to blow up your whole life. You simply need to stop sitting in the rooms that are the ones that are convincing you to stay the same. So welcome back to the Get Unstuck Podcast. This is episode number 349. We usually talk about fitness and nutrition, but today is more of a mindset and energy conversation. And we're going to talk about something that I think many of us feel, but do not always know how to explain it. So maybe you think you're tired, but you're not really tired. Maybe you're bored with the energy that is surrounding you, and that can be in people. That can also be in maybe like your house, the energy in the room, the way it's decorated, if it's old and just drab. And maybe you're tired of hearing the same complaints from the same people at work or with whoever you're surrounding yourself with. Maybe you're tired of having the same conversations over and over, and it's always kind of negative Nelly. Maybe you're tired of watching the same week repeat itself over and over again, like you keep showing up for something that you really don't want to do because somebody else wants you to do it, and you're just like, I guess I got to do this again. I mean, you wake up, you do what you always do, and you talk to the same people about the same problems. They complain about the same things, or maybe even something different, but they're always complaining. Or maybe you complain about the same situation, but you're not actually changing something. You promise yourself that next week will be different, and then next week comes and nothing changes. It can start to feel like pure exhaustion, but sometimes it's not physical exhaustion. Sometimes it's emotional boredom, and sometimes it's frustration. Sometimes it is the heaviness that comes from living on repeat, just kind of going through the motions, caught in a hamster wheel of life and just feeling like you're in a rut. And you think, well, this is the life that I was dealt, and this is the life I'm supposed to live. And this episode is not about blaming other people for your life. I don't want you to think that. It's not about dramatically cutting everyone off either. It is not about deciding that you're better than the people around you. It's just about paying attention. It's about noticing how you feel after you hang out with certain people, or after how you feel after certain conversations. It is about recognizing what happens to your energy when you continue putting yourself into the same environments. It's about asking yourself an honest question. Does the energy around me support the person I am trying to become or be? Because the people around us, they influence us. The conversations that we repeatedly hear, they influence us. The standards that we are surrounded by absolutely influence us. The habits that are normal in our environment eventually begin to feel normal to us too. That does not mean you cannot think for yourself. Of course you can. But we are all affected by what we repeatedly see, hear, tolerate, and participate in. Energy is absolutely contagious. Confidence can be contagious. Discipline can be contagious. Joy can be contagious. But negativity is contagious too. Constant complaining is contagious. Excuses can be contagious. Fear can become contagious. Playing small can become contagious. And sometimes we do not realize how much an environment is affecting us until we actually are brave enough to step outside of it. Shake something up. You can't attend that weekly meeting, whatever it usually is. Take a break. Then think about, hold on, let me find my words. Think about how you feel after spending time with certain people. Do you feel lighter? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel encouraged? Do you feel motivated to take better care of yourself? Like fitness, nutrition. Do you feel safe enough to dream bigger, or do you leave feeling drained and tired and doubting yourself and just wondering, like, is this it? Do you leave frustrated, irritated, or pulled back into an old version of yourself or one that you're not so proud of? I'm just here today to ask you to kind of pay attention to that. Your body often recognizes the energy before your mind is willing to admit it, and these conversations are not usually had. So that's why you can find it here on the podcast with me, because it may be something that you question yourself, but you think, this is life. You may notice that every time you share an idea with someone, they immediately tell you why it won't work. Every time you talk about changing a habit, someone reminds you of all the times that you failed before, or that's not going to work for you. Why would you do that? Every time you try to grow or step into something different to try, somebody wants you to stay exactly where you are comfortable with being. That does not always mean they are a bad person. Sometimes people are simply committed to the version of you that they already understand. And your growth can make other people very uncomfortable. Your boundaries can make people very uncomfortable. Your discipline can make people uncomfortable. And know that, family, loved ones don't always rise and grow at the same level. Some of them don't at all. So your decision to stop participating in negativity can make people uncomfortable. You can still listen if it's someone you care about and you know that this is just who they are. They're not going to change. But their discomfort does not automatically mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes growth requires you to become less available for conversations that keep you stuck. Sometimes growth means you stop explaining every decision, but pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to how you feel when maybe you let somebody down. Do you feel bad? If you feel bad, you need to pay more attention to that. Sometimes changing the room is literal. Sometimes it's not. Maybe you need to go to a different gym. Maybe you need to work out by yourself. Maybe you need to work from a different space. Maybe you need to brighten up your office. Maybe you need to attend a new training class, join some kind of group, or spend time around people who are actively doing the things that you want to do. And not just tagging along with somebody else because you feel like socially that's what you're supposed to do. But changing the room can also be emotional. It can mean changing the subject. It can mean refusing to participate in gossip, negative talk about other people. It can mean leaving a conversation when it becomes negative. It can mean protecting the first hour of your morning instead of immediately absorbing everyone else's problems. It can mean stop taking on everyone else's drama. The worst was when I was younger and I was with somebody who would complain about their day and all the drama around their work, and they never once asked about mine. It was always about what happened to them. It can mean deciding that every phone call does not deserve unlimited access to your time. Changing the room does not always require a dramatic announcement. You do not have to post a speech. You do not have to explain yourself to anybody. You can just quietly change your patterns. You can quietly choose a different routine. You can quietly stop participating in what is bringing you down. You can quietly protect your energy, and you don't have to be someone else's dumping pad for all their drama. It's not all about them. You can quietly build your own life. I think sometimes we wait for a huge moment, like we believe that we need to complete a whole new reinvention, but we really need to think about not necessarily a move or a quit or leave or start over or completely blowing up our lives, but most change begins much smaller than that. It begins with one interruption, one different decision, one boundary, one new conversation, 1 hour spent differently, one walk instead of another hour on the freaking sofa, one podcast instead of another negative phone call, one workout instead of another promise that you'll begin on Monday, one honest decision to stop pretending that the same choices are going to create a different life. Change doesn't happen unless you make change happen. You do not need to blow up your life. You need to interrupt the pattern. Whatever pattern is bringing you down, whatever pattern you're bored with, whatever pattern that you think, oh my God, is this it for the rest of my life? Is this really? You have to become willing to notice where you are going through the motions, repeating the same thing, your weekly meeting, your weekly whatever. If it's not filling your cup, stop doing it. Stop doing it. Why are you living on autopilot? Where have you accepted boredom as normal? And boredom and solitude are two very different things. Where have you accepted negativity as connection? A lot of people do this. They think that they're connected to this other person, but really all it is a lot of negativity. A lot of drama. Where have you accepted complaining as a conversation? Because conversation is about solutions, being productive, inspiring, learning, teaching. But complaining, that is not conversation. That is complaining. Where have you accepted feeling drained as the cost of belonging? Like you want to belong in this little circle, but yet you don't like the way they talk. You don't like the things they talk about. You don't like the way they live their life. Why would you want to keep putting yourself in that room? We don't want to be difficult. Sometimes we stay in the room because we want to belong. We don't want anyone to think that we have changed. We don't want to appear distant. But you're allowed to change. You're supposed to change. You're supposed to learn. You're supposed to grow. You're not supposed to be rude to people, but you're supposed to become more aware of who and what supports you and what does not. There's nothing noble about staying stuck just so other people feel comfortable. You do not have to become cold. You do not have to become rude. You do not have to stop loving people. But you can love people without joining every negative conversation or the drama. You can care about someone without allowing their fear to become your future. And make sure you know when someone is authentic or when someone shows up very differently in a room with other people and you're like, whoa, that's not really the person that I think I know behind the scenes. Like, fake people will show their cards eventually. So pay attention. You can support someone without making their problems your entire identity. You can be compassionate and still have boundaries. Those two things can exist together. This also means looking at the energy that you bring into the room. It's easy to talk about everybody else, but we have to ask ourselves, am I the negative conversation? Am I repeating the same excuses? Am I complaining about circumstances that I refuse to change? Am I waiting for somebody else to bring the energy that I'm unwilling to create? You cannot control every room, but you can control what you contribute to that room. You can become the person who changes the subject. You can become the person who brings hope. You can become the person who says, okay, what are we going to do about it? You can become the person who brings a new idea, a better habit, or a different perspective. You can decide that you're no longer going to bond with people through constant drama and negativity. I cut that shit out a long time ago. It doesn't mean that you never have hard days. It doesn't mean that you ignore real problems. It does not mean you pretend everything is perfect. There's a difference between being honest about a hard season and building your entire personality around what is wrong. There's a difference between asking for support and repeating the same complaint without ever taking any action. There's a difference between processing something and living inside of it. You are allowed to have moments when you're tired. You're allowed to feel frustrated. You're allowed to need support. But eventually, there has to be a decision. What am I going to do next? What can I change? What pattern can I interrupt? What energy am I willing to stop entertaining? What kind of energy do I want to create instead? Maybe you need more time around people who talk about ideas instead of other people. Maybe you need more time around women who take care of their health. Maybe you need more conversations about growth and goals and faith and business and strength and creativity and possibility. Maybe you need to spend time with people who challenge you in a healthy way. People who remind you of what you said you wanted. People who celebrate your discipline instead of making fun of it. People who do not require you to shrink so they can remain comfortable. The right people do not have to agree with everything that you do. They do not have to praise every decision. But healthy people should be able to respect your growth. They should want good things for you. They should be able to have conversations that move beyond gossip and complaining and everything that's going wrong. And remember, not everyone in your life has to fill every role. Some people have or are wonderful for laughing and having fun. Some people are wonderful for business conversations. Some people are wonderful for fitness accountability. Some people are wonderful for spiritual encouragement. One person does not have to be everything, but you do need to be intentional about where you receive your energy, your advice, and your influence. Stop taking advice from people who do not have the life, the habits, the peace, the health, or the results that you want. You can love someone and still recognize that they are not qualified to direct your next move. That realization can save you years. Looking at the people whose opinions are influencing your choices, that's going to help you. Are they courageous? Are they growing? Are they taking responsibility for their lives? Are they willing to be uncomfortable? Are they committed to explaining why nothing can ever change, why nothing goes right? You have to be careful about allowing someone else's limitations become your beliefs. Their fear is not always your warning sign. Their comfort zone is not always your assignment. Their opinion is not always your truth. Sometimes you need to hear your own voice again, and that may require a little bit of space. It may require less noise. It may require a morning walk without your phone. It may require journaling. It may require prayer. It may require sitting quietly enough to recognize what you actually want. Because when you are constantly surrounded by everyone else's opinions, you can lose touch with your own. You begin to live according to what will receive the least resistance. You make decisions based on what will upset the fewest people. You choose what is familiar instead of what is aligned. And then one day you wake up wondering why you feel so disconnected from your own life. You are not necessarily tired. You may be tired of abandoning yourself. You may be tired of performing a version of yourself that no longer fits. You may be tired of pretending you are fine with routines and relationships that no longer feel healthy. You may be tired of asking for permission to change. So here's your reminder today, my friend. You are allowed to create a different rhythm. You are allowed to protect your mornings. You are allowed to say no. You're allowed to have different priorities. You are allowed to stop joining conversations that leave you feeling worse. You're allowed to seek out new rooms. You're allowed to become a beginner again. You're allowed to meet new people. You're allowed to become more selective about what is access to your mind and your energy. And you do not have to do it perfectly. Start by just changing one thing. Choose one conversation you will no longer participate in. Choose one boundary that you need to honor. Choose one person who inspires you and spend more time learning from them. Choose one habit that breaks the cycle of another week on repeat. Maybe today you take the walk by yourself. Maybe today you sign up for the class. Maybe today you clean the space that has been making you feel overwhelmed. Maybe today you listen to something that reminds you there is more available to you. Maybe today you stop calling the person who always sends you back into negativity and spiraling. Maybe today you become more intentional about being yourself. Become yourself. Maybe be by yourself. Small changes matter. Small changes begin to shift your identity, and every time you choose differently, you show yourself that you are not trapped. You are not powerless. You are not required to repeat the same week forever. You can make a new decision. You can create new energy. You can become the person who interrupts the pattern. I want you to think about this today. What room are you sitting in that keeps asking you to become smaller? Be like us. Sit here in our misery. And what would happen if you choose a different room? Not out of anger, not out of judgment, just not to prove anything, but because you finally understand that your energy is valuable. Your attention is valuable. You have more to offer. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is part of taking responsibility of your life, because you cannot keep absorbing negativity all day and then wonder why you have no energy left for your goals. You can't keep feeding the old version of whatever that rut is that you're in. At some point you have to decide which version of you gets your attention. You don't need to have the entire plan. Maybe you're not tired. Maybe you're not bored. Maybe you are freaking just drained and uninspired. Maybe you've been sitting in the same energy for so long that you forgot you were allowed to move. So move, change the conversation, change the routine, change what you listen to, change where you spend your time, change the energy you bring, and when necessary, change the freaking room. The right people will challenge you, inspire you, support your growth, and remind you who you're becoming. Energy is contagious. So protect yours. Thank you for listening to episode 349. That was a long one. Share this episode with someone who may be ready to interrupt an old pattern and create new energy in their life too. So what is one room routine or conversation that you need to change this week? I will talk to you next time, my friend. Love you so much. Bye.